Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of my world's predictions. Let's talk about the group stage from here on out. Now, as a quick reminder, if you haven't seen my original video, I talked about the play-in stage where I picked Gen G, Ninjas and Pajamas, Shopify Rebellion, and Virtus Pro to advance through. Based on the feedback I received, the most controversial pick was Rock losing to Foot. Most people disagreed with my pick here. And then also people thought I underestimated Made in Brazil. So I would like to at least highlight that and say, hey, if that ends up being the case, then I was wrong. Otherwise, these are the predictions I made. I'm sticking with it. I'm not going to change them for this video. Now, let's jump into Group A here. We've got Karmine Corps versus Virtus Pro. That, to me, is pretty much the most one-sided match I think we're going to see here. I just don't see that Virtus Pro come out and really, I don't see him coming out and getting a game off Karmine Corps. Not with Karmine Corps' current form. I'm very high on Karmine Corps. GK versus Ultimates. This is a really interesting match because on one hand, you've got GK who just went grand finals at EWC and is showing a lot of progress and like a sign that they're better than EU number 4. And then we've got Ultimates, which has typically been NA2, maybe NA3 now, based on points. I'd have to look it up. But they seem to start really strong in these tournaments too, right? So it's kind of like you have a team that starts extremely strong versus a team that has shown solid performance. I think I like GK over Ultimates here, but I'm not shocked if the Ultimates win. So I'm going to give it a 3-2 for GK. I do think they're a slightly better team than the Ultimates right now. They seem to be a little bit more consistent at this point in the season. I think Ultimates were doing better earlier in the season, clearly. But I guess I have to say I'm liking what I'm seeing from GK more than I'm liking what I'm seeing from Ultimates at this point in the year. But that's kind of my take on all that. Dignitas versus Gen G. I think Dignitas is a much better team than Gen G, unfortunately. I think there's a world where Gen G comes out and gets a game off Dignitas. But I don't really see Gen G upsetting Dignitas here. I just think Dignitas is playing a lot better. Like EU, the region is just looking incredible this tournament, and I expect them to play even better in France than they did in these other, previous lands. Furia wildcard. This is basically a matchup of who's been declining more. I think Furia will have a nice little bounce back, but I think Wildcard would probably take a game off them just because Wildcard does seem to kind of shock teams and get one game off of them. At least that's historically been the case. Not surprised if this is a sweep for Furia. I would be pretty surprised if Wildcard beat Furia here. That would really be, I feel like, the final nail in the coffin of the Furia roster, because if they can't beat Wildcard, they need to reshuffle, and them and Team Secret need to kind of swap a couple players and just try a different chem, because this Furia team that used to dominate and basically was like a guaranteed top 4, top 6 last year is really not showing its teeth anymore. I think they have the skill gap and the strategy to beat Wildcard, so I'm going to put them over Wildcard, but if we see them falter again this tournament, I think it's guaranteed we're going to see them with issues later on. So let's keep on the uppers here. Karmine versus GK. I think we've seen historically, and based on what I'm seeing, Karmine is a better team than GK. But I think there's a little bit of adversity there. I think GK maybe get 2 games playing at their best against Karmine. But I think Karmine Corps is just too hot right now to predict them losing earlier in the tournament. I don't see them losing a series to Virtus Pro, GK. Ultimates, a little bit of kryptonite for Karmine Corps. If the Ultimates beat GK and the Ultimates come out really hot, I could see a world where Ultimates upset Karmine and send them to the lowers, but I don't see a world where Karmine Corps doesn't qualify out of Group A. I just think that's about as locked in as you can make a prediction, I think. So where's that put Dignitas versus Furia? We know that Dignitas is playing better than Furia, or at least that's what I'm going to say. So I do think Furia's got to go to the lowers, and Dignitas is qualifying through. Not surprising here. We got EU 1 and 2 qualifying through in Group A. This obviously, these brackets are so stacked, it's hard not to pick the favorite teams unless there's very specific matchups that you believe in. So Carmine Dignitas qualifying through in the uppers. Where's that put the lowers? Virtus Pro Ultimates. I do think Ultimates beat Virtus Pro here. And I'm going to put Virtus Pro getting swept out of the tournament. But they also have just a really tough bracket run from Carmine Core to Ultimates. I think Ultimates probably don't drop a game against this team. Gen G versus Wildcard. This is kind of an interesting match. Yeah, it's just tough to say. I actually feel like Wildcard has a really good shot against Gen G. My heart wants me to pick Gen G, but my heart also kind of likes Wildcard for that. Gen G versus Wildcard. In a best of 5, it's more of a toss-up. In a best of 7, I actually really like Gen G. In a best of 5, it almost feels like Wildcard's the slight favorite there for me. I'm going to go with Gen G. Maybe a close 3-2. I believe in Magic Bear, Cheese, Justin. I think these guys could do great things. That sets up a really interesting lower semifinals. Furia Ultimates. Banger matchup. But I think I have to go with Ultimates over Furia here based on recent results and performance. Let me just double check that actually, because we have a matchup from them recently, don't we? We have the EWC matchup. Didn't they play in the same group? Sorry, this is probably going to be behind me. Yeah, Ultimates beat them 3-0 at EWC. I don't know if you can see this, but that to me is just a sign that I think Furia will play better this time, but I do think Ultimates qualify through. And but Ultimates, that's a tough bracket run. GK, Virtus Pro, Furia. And I'm not surprised if they get knocked out at one point there. Maybe, who knows? GK, Gen G. As much as I love to go NA bias, I think we got a pretty sure sign that GK is better. Maybe they pick up one game. So I think that picks a bunch of safe picks for me. Carmine, Dignitas, Ultimates, GK. I think I'm not angry at you if you put Furia through here, but you are going to have to explain to me why they're going to play much better than they have in the last 2 or 3 lands. So keep that in mind. But I think these are pretty solid picks. Nothing honestly too controversial there. So then let's go to Group B here. Another cinema group. We've got Falcons, Rebellion. I love Rebellion, but I don't see them beating Falcons. I think they just get skill diffed here. That would be one of the upsets of the tournament, don't you think? If Shopify Rebellion beat Falcons, that's up there with Virtus Pro beating Carmine Core, right? Vitality Space Station. I really like the new leaf we're seeing from Space Station after their EWC meltdown against Vitality. They came back and looked stronger the next day. I don't predict them to come out and play significantly better this time, just because it's a short gap between EWC and Worlds. But maybe there's a world where Space Station has a better matchup against Vitality than NRG does, and they find a way to win a 3-2, and Kofor and Scribbles and Reveal peak over the top of them. I think that's not preposterous. NRG versus Ninjas. This is kind of a tough matchup because NRG does seem to be struggling against the EU teams more so than the other top region teams. Like, it's almost like NRG has a better matchup against Falcons than they have against like a Dignitas or a 2, 3, or 4 in EU. I do think NRG come out and do better. I think they probably scare us and go 3-2 and just make it cinema because these guys don't know how to keep my heart rate below 140 while I'm watching them. But I still love them, and I still rooting for them, and I still think they're one of the best teams in the world. So I'm going to put them beating Ninjas in Pajamas. If you put Ninjas over NRG, just because Ninjas might start hot and NRG might start slow, not shocked. Not hurt by that pick, you know. Twisted Minds versus Team Secret. This is a really interesting matchup, and unfortunately, like these teams have kind of become. It's like anytime you pick against either of these teams, I get a lot of comments about how I'm underestimating them when I think they're both great teams, and that's okay. Sometimes you got to make your pick regardless of what people are going to say about it. I think Twisted Minds is probably slightly better than Secret in this circumstance. Another thing where I'm not shocked if Team Secret comes out really hot and wins and beats them. I really like what Team Secret is doing, and I'm very optimistic for them based on how they finished this season. From where they started to how they're finishing is amazing progress, maybe the best progress of any team. Probably GK and Team Secret have been like the best trajectory. Vitality is getting there too, but Vitality is like, because they're expected to win, even if they get like top 2 or top 4, people are like, whatever. Whereas GK and Secret kind of had some poor performances or missed events, and now they're really coming and showing that they're at the top at the end of the season here. Falcons versus Vitalities. Sorry, Vitality versus Falcons. Pluralized Vitality there. Great matchup, right? I think based on... I have a really good feeling about Vitality. This tournament, I really do feel like they're going to be way up there and be one of the teams to beat. Oh. Falcons, of course, playing amazing. Vitality on home turf. Vitality, I think, is going to get a better rep because they play Space Station first. Falcons play Rebellion. Falcons come out really strong. Vitality's come out really strong. This, to me, is a coin flip. Oh, I would really love to get your guys' thoughts on who you think was going to win here, but let me not waffle too much because I don't want to make this video like an hour. Let's say Falcons versus Vitality. I think, based on what we've seen, early tournament, I like Falcons here. It's not even an upset. Falcons are just right up there. I think Falcons beat Vitality here. And I don't think Falcons struggle against Space Station Gaming either. So I think Falcons advance through in the uppers. I'm not shocked if Vitality wins. I think if Rebellion gets through here, then Vitality's probably going to beat them. I don't know. NRG Twisted Minds. We have seen this series already. I think it's another close one. Of course, it was a best of 7 at Raleigh that they played last. At least that's what I'm remembering. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And NRG got the better of Twisted Minds. Great series. Amazing series to watch if you're an NA fan. And if you're a MENA fan, you should be proud because Twisted Minds beat Karmine Corps that day and then barely lost to NRG that day. Great series. I do like NRG's matchups through here. I think NRG is better than Ninjas, Twisted Minds, and Secret. So I like NRG's section of the bracket here, and I think bracketology-wise, they have a really good look at qualifying through the uppers. And I wouldn't say they have an easy path because I don't think any of these teams are easy teams, but of the paths to qualify, I think they're probably at the top. Let's talk lower quarterfinals in Group B. We've got Shopify Rebellion versus Space Station Gaming. I think Space Station probably beats Rebellion here. Just in a regional matchup, I'm sure these guys are scrimming a lot, or I'm assuming they are. So I think I like Space Station over Rebellion. NA2 versus NA5. I think you just give it to Space Station. No offense to Rebellion. I think they qualify through, but I don't think they quite have that ceiling to push deep into this bracket or to qualify for top 8. Ninjas and Pajamas versus Team Secret. Oh, maybe this is a controversial pick. I'm going to go with Secret over Ninjas in Pajamas. I really like the product we're seeing from Team Secret. I don't think land nerves is too much of a factor for Oski and for Radosin, but I think Secret's just a little bit more in the motion. They've been on the roster together a little bit longer. I think I like Secret over Ninjas in Pajamas here for maybe a little bit of an upset. You guys let me know. Is that an upset or is that a normal pick? Then we've got Twisted Minds versus Space Station. I believe Space Station beat Twisted Minds here. Should we go again? Go again for that? I don't know. Maybe we do. We've seen it. Space Station had that bounce back game. Space Station, what? They lose to Vitality. They beat Rebellion. Think they'd be in a good spot to beat Twisted Minds at that point. Oh, but I really like Twisted Minds. I really like this roster. I think Rise on land's going to play great. I think Nobu's going to be playing out of his mind. Actually, you know what? I'm going to flip this. Sorry, NA. I'm going to flip this. I think Twisted get their get back. I'm just too high on the Twisted Minds roster. I wish it didn't work out that way. I wish Space Station got to play Secret so I could pick Space Station. Vitality Secret, really either Falcons or Vitality is going to get bumped down here and play one of these teams. I don't think it's too close. I think Vitality sweeps Secret. I think stylistically Vitality beat them up. So who's that got for us? Falcons, Energy, Twisted Minds, Vitality. If you've got Ninjas, Secret, or Space Station qualifying through, I don't disagree with you. I'd be a little bit surprised if anyone picked Rebellion to go through and had like a good argument for it. I just don't see them. They lose to Falcons. I could see a world where they beat Space Station Gaming. I don't know if they beat Twisted Minds though. So I think I'm going to pick this, and then honestly I'm cheering for Space Station Gaming to beat Twisted Minds here, but I'm predicting Twisted Minds to beat Space Station Gaming. You guys let me know what you think there. Let's see how the playoffs work out because of that. Oh man, look at these matchups. Carmine versus NRG, Falcons Dignitas, GK Vitality, Twisted Minds Ultimates. I like Vitality over GK here. I think Vitality starts showing up at this point. Twisted Minds Ultimates. I think I like Ultimates here. I'm gonna go 4-3. I think they make this a very contested, close series. I'm gonna go Ultimates there. Carmine versus NRG. I actually like Carmine for this matchup, but I think NRG pick up 2 games on him. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, bro. Oh hell no, man.
Why? Why does it always happen this way? Why does NRG have to go through Vitality? Falcons Dignitas. I think there's a world where Dignitas upset Falcons, so I'm going to give it 4-3 to Falcons, but I think Falcons is probably the better choice. Oh, man. Wow, I'm really making boring picks, aren't I? Spam boring in the comments if these are boring picks. Let's see. Vitality, NRG. Has NRG done anything to show me that they're going to beat Vitality? No, they have not. I do have hope, but Vitality just has NRG's number. I don't see that changing within this 2-week period. I pray for NRG to get out there and perform and to win for the region. This is what I want. We're talking about what I want versus what I predict. And right now we're going to predict with our brain, not our heart. So I like them there. And then also Dignitas Ultimates. I like Dignitas here. I give that a 4-2. And then that picks our semifinals to Falcons Vitality, Carmine Dignitas. Cinema pick. Vitality Grand Final, France. Carmine Corps. Dignitas. Oh, man. So controversial picks here, right? Controversial picks here. Don't have any NA team making top 4. Unfortunate. But NRG, basically, if NRG would have played any of the other teams, I probably would have put them through. But I don't think their matchup against Vitality has become an issue for them. And I think I have to respect the history of that versus going with my heart. Now we've got Vitality beating Falcons. This, I think, a little bit of a hot take maybe. As you can see here, I've got Falcons beating Vitality in the uppers to qualify in Group B here. I'm going for a flip here. I think Zen and Monkey Moon and I think Exotic comes alive on Sunday and just destroys and it's just devastates. And so then we've got Vitality, I'm getting out of order here. Karmine Core, I think skill gap Dignitas a little bit here. Moments maybe a little bit too bright for Dignitas, and Karmine Core capitalizes on that. I think it's more likely that Karmine Core plays extremely well than Dignitas plays bad, especially at this stage of the tournament. Nobody's going to get top 4 here and play bad. Like if Karmine Core comes out and plays bad, they're not making top 4. If Falcons come out and play bad, they're not making top 4. The talent level is just too high at this tournament. So I think I have to pick Vitality versus Karmine Core. Who's going to win? We got Monkey Moon at Worlds on one side. We've got Drally at Worlds on the other. Ooh. Game 7. Drally shows us why he's the best player in the world. Karmine Core wins in France. Boom. Stadium opens up. The streets of Lyon flood with proud K-Corp supporters. Sorry, I tried to be poetic there. It didn't really work. I really like what Karmine Core is bringing to the table right now. I know they didn't have the best showing at Raleigh. I think this tournament matchup is pretty good for them. I think they have a very plausible run to win here. I'm not shocked if any of the following teams win. I'm not shocked if Karmine wins. I'm not shocked if Vitality wins. I'm not shocked if Falcons win. I'm not shocked if Dignitas wins. I'm not shocked if GK wins based on how we've seen them play. And I'm not shocked if NRG win. I'd be a little bit shocked if Ultimates won, just because I think they'd have to really be playing the best series ever back to back, like 3 or 4 times in a row, which just hasn't been their style. Typically they play maybe 1 or 2 amazing series and then they kind of lose their stride a little bit. No offense to those guys, wish them the best for this tournament. I think there's a world where they go grand final again. There's possibly a world where they win. What are the best teams that I don't have going that far? Twisted Minds, I think, has a good run. GK, like I said, has a good run. I don't know. I think there's a lot of different options, a lot of things that could be interesting and show up in interesting ways. So I guess the question is, do you guys think this is Karmine Core's tournament to lose? I've seen some people pick Falcons because they feel like Falcons are going to have a nice bounce back after EWC and they won Raleigh, so therefore they do better in the RLCS format. Let me know what you think. I don't think I made any super controversial picks here, but if you strongly disagree, please let me know. And if you do disagree, please, with that comment, don't just say I'm a dummy. Actually explain why you feel that way, so that way I can learn and understand and get better at my predictions, because that's one thing I want to do is keep getting better at these predictions. Here is the end of RLCS 2025 seasons. I expect Karmine Core to go through and win here. Not shocked if some other teams do it. My teams I'm cheering for: Energy, Ultimates, Space Station. I'm going to be cheering for all the NA teams, but these are my realistic predictions. I think Karmine Core is going to walk out with a 300K, and we're going to see how great they are. So thank you so much for watching. I've got some more cool RLCS videos coming soon, even a collaboration video with another creator. coming soon. Won't give any other details other than that. Thank you so much for all the support. Let me know your thoughts about what's going to happen in Lyon. And if you're going, let us know so that way we can be excited for you. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care and bye.